Hello everyone, my name is Courtney Maccia. I am currently going for my degree in assessment, curriculum, and teaching with a STEM concentration. I am a first grade teacher at Spring Lake Heights Elementary in New Jersey. So the purpose of my study was to examine the effect of online fact fluency practice has on paper and pencil fluency. With the push for more technology in every classroom, teachers need to determine when it is helpful and useful in the classroom. So a lot of my project was looking at those online activities that many students are involved in, especially when it comes to fact fluency practice. So practicing those addition and subtraction facts quickly in a classroom setting. My research question was, how will the use of online fact fluency practice impact paper and pencil fluency in a first grade classroom? Again, I'm a first grade teacher, so looking at this at a first grade basis. I also focused on addition specifically since that is what we start the year with. So in my research, it showed a lot of mixed results regarding the effectiveness of computer assisted instruction, or otherwise known as CAI. A lot of them said sometimes it was good for motivation, other times it did just as well as paper and pencil. So there was a lot of different mixed reviews. Also, this was over both multiplication and addition and subtraction facts. So it kind of was a little mix of everything. There were 5 key components to having an effective CAI found from my background information. So opportunity to respond, so how much time the students have to answer the questions. Immediate feedback, did they get the question correct or incorrect, letting them know instantly. Instructional pacing, so does it allow you to plan assessment and plan the opportunities for students based on what you're already learning in class, or is it predetermined? Engagement, is it something fun for the students, or is it more of just drilling facts just like they would on paper and pencil? And does it have progress reports given to the teachers on how the students are doing, what problems they're answering, and things along that line? So my design of my project was I started with a pre-test. So the students had a paper with 26 addition facts on it. They were given 1 minute to complete as many as they could within that minute. They were encouraged to jump around to the ones that they knew instantly first and then go back to the ones that they maybe needed a little bit more time to figure out. After that, students participated in an online math fact fluency game called Extra Math. Students completed this 3 to 5 times per week, depending on our schedule availability. And progress reports were pulled weekly to examine how many times per week students were on it. So every week I looked at their reports of how many times they were able to go get on the fact fluency games and how long they were on it for. After that, I did a post test with again 26 addition facts completed in 1 minute. So however many they could complete in 1 minute. It was similar addition facts to the pre-test, but the order in which the questions were done was changed from the original test. So after doing this, I found that 31.1 students digressed, meaning that they got less questions correct in the post-test than they did in the pre-test. 6.3 students plateaued, which was only one student who got the same exact score in the pre-test and the post-test, and 62.5% of students grew, meaning that they got more answers correct in the post-test than they did in the pre-test, showing that it seems to be good for students to have this online practice, but it might not be addressing all students' help. So I also looked at their placement based on if they were basic, proficient, or advanced based on first grade standards for New Jersey. So a basic would have been getting 0 to 7% correct, a proficient was getting 8 to 16% correct, and advanced was 17 or more. So for the pre-test, I had 37.5 students get the basic where they had 0 to 7% correct. And it was the same number for the post test. So there was a lot of students who didn't grow, or I had some students, as you saw earlier, digress, meaning that they got less answers correct in the second post test than they did in the pre-test. For proficient, at first I had 50% of the students getting proficient, and in the second I had 37.5%, which shows that some students moved. Since basic stayed the same, this makes me believe that more students moved up to that advanced column than they did moving down to the basic. So going on with that, the advanced students got 12.5 in the beginning, the pre-test, and afterwards they got 25% students were advanced, showing that some students must have moved up from being proficient to being advanced after using the online curriculum. Here is another example of the pre and post test comparison. So for this one, it has the blue is the pre-test and the red is the post-test. As you can see, there are some students who stayed exactly the same and some students who grew and some students who digressed. The students who show nothing in the red column means that they got 0 correct in the post-test as opposed to what their first scores were. So example, my student who's technically number 6, they got a certain number correct in the pre-test and they were unable to get any correct in the post-test. So you can see how some students grew substantially during this time and some students did unfortunately digress or regress in their learning. So my conclusion would be to be consistent with computer assisted instruction. So based on all of my research and based on the students who did grow, it is most important to be consistent with when students do this. I noticed a lot of the students who either stayed the same or regressed, they weren't on it as consistently due to scheduling constraints as the students who did improve in their ability to do fact fluency. So being consistent and having students on a certain amount of time every single week, a certain number of days, really helps with their ability to use the computer assisted instruction to grow. It also taught me to really look at if the different interventions used in the classrooms are really working. As I'm sure you all have noticed, we're always being told all the greatest, newest way to help students learn and help students grow, but really looking at the different interventions that I'm using in the classroom and seeing if they're really working. I know, as I stated earlier, that a big push is to be using the computers and be using all these different online interventions, but just making sure that they are right for the students in my classroom and not just doing them because I'm told they're the next greatest thing. So that kind of goes along with our next point. I will no longer just use an intervention because my school tells me it will work. I will look into it on my own. So really doing that extra step of checking out what it is I need to be doing to making these interventions work the best way that they can, and what are some things that maybe the school isn't telling me or the program isn't telling me about what needs to be done, what students it's going to help, because it's not going to work for all students in the class. So I could also use this project to show my school how making the time for these CAIs is the only way to make them work with fidelity. So making sure that if I present this to my colleagues, really making it known that you need to take the time to have these in the classroom. It's not just oh, well, you finished all of your work, now it's time, you can go on the computer and do this extra activity, that's not really going to help them grow. It needs to be something that's consistent in the classroom and a part of our daily schedule.